Now here's a couple I actually enjoy talking about. Eva and Ryan's relationship fascinates me. They are among some of my favorite couples in Hollywood, alongside Paul Bettany and Jennifer Connelly, or Aidan Brody and Leighton Meester. They are also an example that a sun in Pisces and a sun in Scorpio can actually have a long-term romance. Because believe me, I tried it in real life and it failed spectacularly. So with all this in mind, I do want to pinpoint some of the difficult aspects of their synastry, because it's not all peaches and cream in their astrological energies. Nonetheless, they managed to make it work, and they've been together for a long time, in spite of the fact that recently some people have attributed tensions in their relationship to an upcoming split. But my guess is that these two will continue to remain together, and the reasons for why I believe that are all caught up in their astrological synastry. So let's unpack that in this video. Hi everyone, welcome to The Spiritual Cosmos. I'm your host, Alexandra Macht. I am a certified astrologer with a fondness for celebrity news, celebrity analysis, and gossip. Welcome to my little astrological haven. Today we are going to be talking about the synastry between Eva Mendes and Ryan Gosling. I do need to give you a heads up that in this clip specifically, I'm not going to insist on Ryan's chart, mostly because I have already looked at his energy. He's one of my favorite actors. So if you are a Ryan Gosling fan like I am, check out this video that I created for you guys. It's part of my series Astro Hunks, in which I unpack the birth charts of famous male celebrities for your viewing pleasure. So this video will be specifically focused on Eva's chart, and Eva's chart poses a really big issue. We don't have information related to her ascendant. Usually this is the case with male celebrities. They tend to be more mysterious and they lack a birth time, and therefore we cannot assess their ascendant as astrologers. But Eva is the opposite in this situation. So I'll be focused in this clip on her birth chart and then on their synastry summary points. And if you want to have a look at Ryan's energy, check out my Astro Hunks clip. Before I dive into her main placements, have a look at it yourself. I'm sure you noticed that a couple of things stand out. Obviously, she's lacking an ascendant, which spoils the whole synastry interpretation. Please take the synastry with a grain of salt, because if we don't have the ascendants of the two people involved, any composite, any synastry chart, any compatibility rating will be a little bit flawed in its essence. We do need ascendants for a really precise and correct synastry interpretation. But here, I'm just going to give you my 2 cents on the energy that is available. So we can see that Eva is a sun in Pisces. We don't know the house in which her sun is placed, so we don't know what extra energy she borrows from, but we do know that she is a Neptunian. We don't have information on her chart ruler, so I'm just going to take the planet that rules her sun sign, Neptune, as her chart ruler in the situation. We also see that she has a moon in Leo. Okay, so right off the bat, we see a little bit of an internal conflict there with Eva. She can be incredibly giving and loving, but she also has a more feisty, passionate, slightly selfish, self-obsessed side, a side that keeps her taking really good care of herself. Moon and Leos are very proud of their family, of their work, of how they look. These are people that really live from the heart and are very tough on themselves and on the people around them. They're very loving, very generous, very giving, as long as you tickle them correctly, as long as you compliment them, as long as you treat them right. Because when you don't, he'll have no fury like a moon in Leo scorn. Let's see what experts in astrology have to say about the general aspects of a sun in Pisces woman with a moon in Leo. So let's hear it first from Liz Green. This is what the famous British astrologer talks about when she describes the sun in Pisces woman. The Pisces woman has a unique ability to make a man feel terribly masculine, because she seems so often to need protecting, cherishing, and tenderness. Because she has such a changeable range and depth thoughtful feeling, she often gives the impression of being slightly unformed. Many men think they can shape her into what they choose. In part, it is true, but blank slate she is not. Although eager to please and rarely argumentative, she also has the gift of defense through submergence. Now you see her, now you don't. Romanticism runs very high in the Pisces woman. She expects and needs the poetry and tenderness that any fairy tale princess merits. Starve her of these and you will drive her either into another lover or into herself, where she may transform into the martyr. Provide them and your princess becomes a queen. Simple. Okay, so if you are a Sun in Pisces woman yourself, maybe you find some of your qualities and some of the flaws in Liz Green's description. I certainly have. I am a Sun in Pisces myself with a Sun loosely conjunct Mercury, and I can definitely relate to what she has written. One of the reasons why I love looking at celebrity charts, and especially celebrities that share some placements in common with mine, is that by analyzing them, I also get to know myself a little bit better. Now, coming back to Eva's chart, we see that her moon in Leo is sitting in an opposition to a number of planets and points parked in the opposite sign of Leo, which is Aquarius. She has a Venus in Aquarius loosely conjunct the asteroid Lilith, the wild feminine archetype, which gives her a very fierce, independent spirit, boss lady kind of vibe, but also a lot of sexual appeal. She's very magnetic. It's almost like men feel that she is dangerously hot. They kind of want her, but they also feel repelled or disgusted by how much they want her. They feel like there's something weird or dark or dangerous about the attraction that they may have towards her. So it's no wonder that she actually attracted a Scorpio, because we all know that Scorpios are very comfortable with dark desires. We also see that in her Aquarius stellium over there, we have the planets Mercury and Jupiter, and she has her Mercury almost perfectly conjunct the planet Jupiter. Her Jupiter is in Aquarius, which is a relatively okay placement for Jupiter to be in. If you don't believe me, here is what Stephen Arroyo has to say about a Jupiter in Aquarius individual. Since Aquarius is co-ruled by the risk-taking rebellious planet Uranus, it is not surprising that those with Jupiter here are usually comfortable taking risks in many areas of life. In fact, creative risks are stimulating to them and even necessary for them to feel alive. Free and easy, tolerant, unconventional they can be, so long as they are not made to deal with or express emotions. They seek to rise above emotions and to seek well-being in detachment. They easily place their trust in large ideas and plans, but remain uncomfortable with the subtler nuances of human relationships, unless perhaps they have personal planets in water signs. Well, indeed. Take it from the Jupiter expert himself. Coming back to this conjunction between Jupiter and Mercury, it's a really powerful one because it really puts a lot of good luck in the way in which you express yourself and the way in which you think. The more positive and optimistic Eva speaks about her desires, her intentions, her likes and her dislikes, the more she thinks in a positive mindset, the more she attracts good luck, opportunities, and a lot of wealth and prosperity towards her. This also gives her prophetic abilities. She's almost like an oracle, which coupled with her sun in Pisces gives her a really powerful magnetic energy. It's almost like she is prescient, may have the gift of foresight. She could be a really good fortune teller, for example. Now, this is also amplified by the fact that all those planets in Aquarius over there are sitting in a really beautiful energy with her Saturn conjunct Mars in Gemini. Usually the tough aspects between Saturn and Mars, normally the conjunctions, the squares and the oppositions, make a person be incredibly tough on themselves, and also in terms of how they exert their physical energy. There is a streak of cruelty that I've noticed in a lot of people that have these energies, especially the Mars square Saturn individuals. But with Eva, because they are in a conjunction, not in a square or an opposition, these energies are blended. So she's able to be very determined, very forceful, very disciplined when the situation requires it. She did mention that together with Ryan, she likes to practice this kind of like tough disciplinarian aspect of parenting, which I think fits very well with this energy of control over and above complete trust or self-acceptance. And this is part of the vibration of having Saturn in a tight aspect to Mars. So on one hand, Jupiter conjunct Mercury in Aquarius gives her this really cosmic way of thinking. She's years ahead of her peers in terms of the way in which she thinks thinks and the way in which she understands human relationships. And in addition to this, the trine aspect that her Jupiter and Mercury are making to Saturn and to Mars are really supporting this energy, whereas she can be authoritarian, but it's not perceived in a negative light by the people around her. It's actually perceived as she's being supportive, she's contributing to education, she's mastering everybody's ways of speaking and controlling the discussion to meet her own needs. And that's fascinating because I see that Eva actually grew up in a pretty tough environment. She has her South Node in Gemini conjunct Mars and Saturn. Oof, just having one of these two malefic planets near your South Node, so your comfort area, means that you had a lot of hardship to bear with in childhood, that you were incarnated into a reality that was deeply uncomfortable. Mars usually brings conflict in a person's life, so when you have Mars conjunct your comfort area, it's not a really comfortable comfort zone, one that has a lot of strife. You were brought up in an environment that was maybe unnecessarily violent, or you grew up in a conflict area, for example, a conflict zone, a war zone. And in addition to this, because she has Saturn there, this shows me that she may have had to endure deprivation related to some of her male relatives. Maybe a father that couldn't provide, or a father that was too authoritarian, a father that could have been absent, maybe just swooping in and out to give money to the family and then disappear. So she has a lot of really weird karmic energy related to these two malefic points that are usually associated with father energy, with male energy, because Mars represents masculinity and the male principle, the male archetype, the animus, while Saturn represents the old man, the grandfather, the supreme taskmaster, the teacher that punishes you if you make mistakes and rewards you when you're doing a good job. I would say that Eva, unfortunately, like most Piscean women, has some very heavy father issues. It could be that some powerful men in Hollywood may have stunted her growth in terms as an actress because she hasn't been receiving the best kind of roles throughout her career, in spite of the fact that I don't think at all that she's a bad actress. It's just that she hasn't been given the right opportunities for growth, and I think it's because of the way that older men in positions of power in Hollywood perceived her. She has been told several times that she looks too ethnic, for example. Now, this is also in relation to the fact that if she has a South Node in Gemini, her destiny point is the North Node in Sagittarius. And we see that the North Node in Sagittarius is loosely conjunct Neptune. She was basically meant to be an actress. She was meant to be in front of the camera and to have people's desires projected upon her. She is struggling a little bit to fulfill this destiny. She's much more comfortable with things that she knows, that she finds familiar, with taking care of children, with taking care of little things. And we see how throughout her life, she has been holding herself back from appearing too strongly in the limelight. She's a very private person, something which I really enjoy seeing. I really appreciate that about her. But I do think that because she hasn't been more in the limelight, because she hasn't been putting herself out there, she is kind of stepping away from fulfilling the requirements of that beautiful North Node in Sagittarius conjunct Neptune. A North Node in Sagittarius also gives you this consciousness of plenty, makes you feel like things are gonna work out, but you have to put in some work to believe these things, because the South Node in Gemini will always drag you back to a lack mentality, being suspicious of other people, questioning their motives, and kind of like falling into gossip and negativity, trying to find the needle in a haystack instead of actually letting things go and just believing and trusting that the divine will provide for you. So the more Eva is working towards this energy of faith, of allowing things to just happen, of manifestation through using her Jupiter conjunct Mercury function and that Mars conjunct Saturn in an air sign energy, the more she benefits in life. But she does come across in a very powerful way in her personal connection. I find her to be the domineering partner in a love situation. And why am I saying that? Well, let's have another look at her moon in Leo and see how Donna Cunningham describes an individual that was born with a moon in Leo.
Leo
moons often have star quality and a certain pizzazz. No one can ignore them, for their arrival is like the sudden flare of Klieg lights. They love a production, and many have been accused of being prima donnas. Just as the lion is the king of the jungle, these regal folks are the kings and queens of the zodiac. They are loyal, magnanimous people, generous to a fault. This moon also has an endearing warmth, humor, and childlike capacity for play acting. They generally relate well to children, for they haven't lost touch with the child within. I absolutely love the way Donna interprets moon signs energy, and I hope you found some nuggets of wisdom in that quote I just shared with you. It's fascinating because all that lunar energy, as I mentioned previously, is sitting in an opposition in Eva's chart with her Aquarius stellium. So we see a moon sitting in opposition from Venus, Mercury, Lilith, and Jupiter. And usually an individual that has a moon-Venus aspect, whether it's an opposition, a square, a trine, or a sextile, they have problems integrating their emotional side with their romantic needs. In her case, because it's an opposition, she kind of flips between these aspects. One moment she finds a smooth projection of her emotions into her romantic relationship, so she's able to express them really easily. The next moment she could be a little bit aloof, detached, and proudly sitting back from whatever she was engaged with. Also, the fact that she has a sun square aspect to her moon, it doesn't have to be necessarily shown on the chart through a red line, but when you have a sun in a sign that is not compatible to your moon, it's usually an indicator that you grew up in a household where there was a lot of strife. The mother and the father were constantly arguing, or they were giving off signals that were contradictory. The mother may have brought you up to be religious while the father was an atheist, and you grew up with these two contradictory energies. And with Eva, this is significant because we also see that she has a Pluto loosely conjunct Uranus situation in the sign of Libra. Being a member of the Pluto and Libra generation, by the way, a generation that a lot of marketing and advertising executives have missed in the whole labeling of generations as Gen Z, millennials. I'm going to create a clip to talk about generational differences according to Pluto, not to marketing advertisers' labels. Coming back to her energy, we see that as a Pluto and Libra person, she transforms many times through the relationships that she has, especially the long-term committed romances that she engages with. She's also very, very innovative and a little bit fickle, kind of like electrifying. She keeps you on your toes as a partner. And I think Ryan really likes that because as a Sun and Scorpio man, she needs a partner that is both soft and romantic and yielding, and that Sun and Pisces energy that Eva has really gives her that vibe. But at the same time, he also needs somebody who can be strong and supportive and also fascinating enough and changeable enough so that he doesn't get bored, because oh boy, Sun and Scorpio men get bored so easily if they are in a connection with a person that is too simple and too steady and kind of boring. You know, they bring the drama into the relationship just so that they could feel something intensely, because Scorpios love to feel and they cannot help themselves. Being a fixed water sign, they are riddled with intense, powerful, seething emotions. So Eva is a really good counterpart for him from that point of view, because she's able to take all of that emotion and sometimes the pessimism and the negativity that he brings into the connection, because he is not only a Sun in Scorpio, but he has a moon in Capricorn. So a Saturnian moon can really get you down in the dumps. So she can lift him up really easily because she has all that air in her chart. She's like sparkling water to him, you know, very refreshing. She can combine kindness and compassion with being strict and just when the situation requires appropriate boundaries and a bit of a firm hand. And I think he really likes this dichotomy. She's like an iron fist and a gloved hand with all that Libra, Aquarius, and Gemini energy. She's very sociable as well, which is kind of weird because she keeps herself quite private, but I'm sure that in her personal life, she's like a motor of doing deeds for other people and supporting her community. And we know for sure that she has a really strong passion for style, and she has her own brand of makeup. From what I could tell, she has a side job away from acting that provides her with a certain creative comfort, because as a Sun in Pisces, she needs a creative outlet in order to be happy. One that actually is over and above what the joy of being a mother provides her with, because I feel that she is actually quite happy to be a mother. She mentioned her children and her relationship to her own mother, and how she met Ryan at a point in her life when her mother was going through some health issues. It was actually kind of cute because I read read an interview about the moment when they met filming the movie The Place Beyond the Pines, which is an awesome movie. I highly recommend that you go and watch it after you finish watching this clip, of course. And they were pretending to be a family, and Ryan actually said, you know what, I kind of want to stop pretending and just make this real. So that was so sweet. It's like they met at the perfect timing for both of them to settle down and have a family together. And this idea of wanting to build a family is what actually pushed their commitment to the next level, and it ended up being something long-term. Now, whether they will continue to be together as they grow older and the children grow up and decide to leave the family nest, this is something I cannot exactly tell you. It could be that they may follow in the footsteps of another famous Sun in Pisces, Sun in Scorpio couple. I'm talking here about Sun in Scorpio Demi Moore and Sun in Pisces Bruce Willis. And we all know how that successful relationship for a good number of years ended. Yeah, for a long period of time, they were my successful Sun in Pisces, Sun in Scorpio couple, because I'm a 90s kid. I grew up with their movies. Since the 2000s, Ryan and Eva have been my Sun in Pisces, Sun in Scorpio example. I don't know why I'm rooting so much for them. I think it's because when I grew up, I read a lot of astrology articles and books as I was trying to understand who I am and why do I have these weird energies in my chart. And everywhere, people were saying that the best relationship that a Pisces can be in is with a Scorpio, you know? And I kept fantasizing about this perfect ideal love that I could have with my Scorpio soulmate. But in reality, I dated a number of Scorpio men that had issues, but that's okay because, you know, I have issues as well. And we just couldn't gel, we just couldn't click. And then I started looking more deeply into the fact that I have a Venus in Aquarius and a Mars in Taurus, and I have a Pluto in Scorpio that is really triggering a lot of Sun in Scorpio men. So based on those in-depth points, I realized that what traditional astrologers were telling me about the compatibility that I normally should have with the Scorpio Sun were not actually really fitting to my reality. I am much more compatible with, for example, a Sun in Capricorn, a Sun in Aquarius, or a Sun in Taurus than I will ever be with the Sun in Scorpio. So it's important, guys, to take these analysis with a grain of salt. Please do your own research, please read widely, and then based on your own life experience, then figure out what compatibility fits you the most, what would really be something that could make you happy. Don't just absorb knowledge that is out there on the internet, you know, like a sponge, without critically thinking and comparing it to your own lived experience. Please don't be shy about asking your romantic partners about their birth details so you can cast their chart and see what energies pulled you in together, what energies are kind of pushing you guys apart. This is how you become a really good astrological scholar. Okay, so I did a quick sweep of some of Eva's most important placements. We also looked at some important quotes from the literature, and I gave you a heads up in terms of your own practical analysis. Now I think we're well equipped to move to the next section, which is the synastry analysis between Eva and Ryan. So before I dive into that, here is their chart so you can have a quick look at their placement. Going to pop here their synastry chart with some of the things I highlighted. Obviously, the first thing you notice by taking a quick glimpse over their synastry chart is the fact that they are compatible water signs. She is a Sun in Pisces, he is a Sun in Scorpio, she's a Neptunian, he's a Plutonic. Traditional astrologers think that they are a match made in heaven because they are members of the same water trine family. Well, that's it. The lesson is over. I'll see you in my next one. Well, obviously, it's not that easy. He is an ascendant in Pisces, a Sun in Scorpio with the Moon in Capricorn, and she's a Sun in Pisces with the Moon in Leo. So we see there a problem with their incompatible moon signs. And if you guys have been following me, you know that this is my pet peeve in terms of relationships that stand the test of time. If your moon sign is not in a trine, sextile, or conjunct aspect to that of your partner, it's going to be very difficult to make this relationship work a la longue. Sure, it could be fun for a hot one-night stand, it could be cool for a short-term relationship, but odds are you're gonna get sick of each other pretty fast because you don't have the same way in which you rest, you don't have the same emotional needs, and you don't know how to respond correctly to your partner's emotional reactions. He has a very detrimental position of his moon. A Saturnian-clad moon makes a person pessimistic, very locked in emotionally. It makes a person react inappropriately to a lot of things. This is the sign of an individual that usually laughs at a funeral. This is a marker of an individual that can be emotionally very closed off and can be quite cruel in terms of not really showing love towards other people, not really appreciating effusive declarations of love or touchy-feely interactions. A person that has either a moon conjunct Saturn or a moon in Capricorn tends to express love through money, work achievements, and providing for the family, protecting those that they love. Eva, on the other hand, she has a very passionate lunar energy. With a moon in Leo, as we saw previously when we analyzed her birth chart, she is very, very flamboyant, can be quite dramatic occasionally. Now, this can make Ryan feel very good because he has that Sun in Scorpio conjunct Uranus in Scorpio energy. So he kind of lives for a little bit of passionate drama. I'm sure that's why he became an actor. And it's also nice to see that because Eva has a stellium of planets in Aquarius, that Uranian vibe is also mirrored in the fact that Ryan has his Sun conjunct Uranus. So he's not only a Scorpio, but he's a Scorpio that borrows traits from Aquarius energy. And I think that's why I love him so much, because my Venus is in Aquarius. So his darkness is a little bit electrified. He tends to be more on the humanitarian side of all of that seething scorpionic intensity. And this matches really well with all the air energy that we see in her chart. The fact that Eva has her Sun smack on his ascendant, this is a very good aspect. This shows that he admires her. Usually, when you are attracted to a person whose Sun falls on your ascendant, you really become obsessed with that individual in a positive way. You admire them. You see them as a role model. You want to be like that person, not only be with them. So there is this admiration, this respect, almost this adoration that Ryan instantly felt for Eva, because the way she is naturally, her Sun, the way she expresses herself, is exactly what he aspires to become with that ascendant in Pisces. Now, from my understanding, they are both pretty kind individuals, contributing to charity. They are not people to brag about how charitable they are. They just do it and they move forward. And that's what I really love about them. They also seem to be quite happy as parents. Their daughters seem to be growing beautifully and they seem to be well adjusted. Now, the really fascinating part, and you get to see there in the bubble towards the end that I circled at the bottom of the chart, we see that Eva's Mars, South Node, and Saturn energy in the sign of Gemini falls in the 3rd and 4th houses of Ryan. He really chose the perfect woman to have a family with, because having a partner whose Saturn falls into your 4th house guarantees that you have a person who's committed, serious, loyal, and responsible, a person who really takes on the responsibility of building a home with you, of moving in with you, and of really taking the responsibility as a parent seriously. So he chose her really well, and I feel that it's because his intuition is off the chart. With 3 planets in Scorpio, I wouldn't actually underestimate his intuition. The only problem that I see there is the fact that Ryan brings Mars and Neptune energy on Eva's North Node. Usually, harsh aspects in a man's chart between Mars and Neptune lead to a lot of secrecy, and it's traditionally the cheater aspect. It's that man that tends to wallow in his own pity, he cannot help himself. It's the man that would rather drink than face up to his responsibilities, to why a relationship is ending. But in the chart of celebrities, actors, performers, this aspect has a redeeming quality. For example, this aspect makes Ryan a very good actor and a very good dancer as well. No wonder that he starred in La La Land. He has a fluid sense of masculinity, so he's not the traditional type of male, but more like leaning towards this progressive, caring masculinity, fluid idea of gender. And this fits very well with Eva's yang energy. She is quite masculine. We saw a lot of air sign placements in her chart. We saw that really powerful moon in Leo. She tends to be domineering, even unconsciously. She may not even understand just how domineering and authoritarian she can come across. But this fits really well with his fluid sense of masculinity. He appreciates people that ground him, that keep him with his feet on the ground. And Eva does that for him in a way that is kind of fun and sexy, because she doesn't have a lot of earth energy. If her chart would be packed with earth energy, she would be controlling and domineering in a really uncomfortable, suffocating kind of way. But because she has all those planets in air air sign, she can come across as very well-spoken, educated, funny. She can control you by cracking jokes and putting you at ease. You may not even know that you're being dominated by her or being made to do what she wants rather than what you want. And I'm not saying this because I hate her or I think that she's a bad woman. On the contrary, I love Eva. I really stand by my sisters. I really appreciate powerful women, and especially successful women, women who get their man, get their family. But I do feel that her chart tends to lean more towards this unconsciously domineering authoritarian role. And the fact that her Saturn and her Mars are falling into Ryan's 4th house does talk about the fact that she is on a deep level, maybe even unconscious. I'm not sure how well spoken they have been about this subject in their private lives, but she is the one that dominates the private realm. She is the leader of the household. A fascinating aspect, and one that tells me that they know each other from a past life, and in a past lifetime, Eva may have actually been his wife then too, or some sort of spiritual leader, some sort of spiritual guide for him. We see that her stellium in Aquarius is falling upon Ryan's South Node, so his comfort zone, the legacy, the karma that he brings with him from a past life, what he naturally was able to do in the first part of his life. So with the South Node in Aquarius, he was born weird. He was born to feel like an outcast. He wasn't really very confident, very strong. He may have actually put other people in the groups around him before himself, but he is naturally growing into this person that is charismatic, that is a family leader, that is powerful, both physically but also through the energy that he exudes, because he has a North Node in Leo. And here is another beautiful aspect made with Eva's synastry points. So Eva has this Moon in Leo energy. She unconsciously exudes this energy of the leader, the goddess, the family protector, the lioness. She comes across in certain public situations as very soft-spoken, very sweet, very feminine, very ethereal, because that's the Sun in Pisces energy she projects. But in her private life, she brings this Leo energy to the table. And Ryan cannot help himself. He wants more of that. He could be low-key obsessed with that energy. Normally, when a partner in our synastry, in our compatibility reports, has a moon that touches upon our North Node, we become obsessed with how this person feels, with how this person talks to us, makes us feel, with how this person rests and how they feel when they relax, with the unconscious energy that we pick up from that person. And as we know, desires are very much unconscious before we make them conscious by doing the work. So they have some strong compatibility points due to these aspects. The fact that their sun signs are aligned, so they're both wanting the same things in life. They're both working towards the same energies. And because they're water signs, they tend to prioritize feelings, artistry, emotions, compassion, kindness, sensitivity, and family life, being private individuals, going out into the world, doing their best, doing their work, coming back home, and they come alive in their home. They love having a family, they love being together, they love being in love. In addition to this, Eva's stellium in Aquarius touching upon his South Node, they know each other from a past life, and especially she influenced him heavily. And in this lifetime, he needs the way she is emotionally to grow into his destiny sign. So she gives him a lot of confidence. She really bigs him up with that empowering Moon and Leo energy. And because he is so obsessed with her, that's very complimenting to her Moon in Leo, who expects nothing less than sheer adoration from a partner. So you see how beautifully their energies are dancing around each other. In the private sphere, she is more the dominant male aspect, and he, I think, is more the feminine aspect at home when he relaxes. While in the public sphere, I think it's exactly the opposite. They project these images of traditional man and wife. He is out there earning money, getting these roles, doing publicity tours, and she is staying at home taking care of the children. So that's the image that they project to the public, but at home it's a completely different story. Isn't astrology fascinating? If we didn't have a look into their birth charts, you would never tell that this is the situation. Now, Ryan has a lot of planets in Libra. We can see there that he has his Pluto, Venus, Saturn, and Jupiter in the sign of Libra, and Eva brings this Uranus-Pluto energy into that stellium, really lighting it up. They have a Venus-Pluto link. This is really obsessive kind of love, you know, that kind of love that they write really intense crime thrillers about. For example, Basic Instinct has a Venus-Pluto kind of attraction. It's a love that can lead to low-key obsession and also to a lot of broken trust moments moments. It's like, I love you, you consume me, I burn for you, but also I am aware that you could kill me any moment. I am aware that I may want to kill somebody else for you. So it's a very kind of like dangerous, dark kind of love, or what would Lady Gaga refer to, a bad romance. But the fact that all of this energy that is quite intense is placed in an air sign again, in elegant, balanced Libra, kind of makes me feel less worried for their love affair imploding into something horrifying. It's mostly because Libra energy is always going to try to keep them on track. When you are a person that has Libra energy in your chart, you could be very chaotic, but you also find moments when you are just hitting the right notes, striking the right path. All of a sudden, out of the blue, you reorganize yourself. I myself have an ascendant in Libra, and I can tell you that I go through periods of chaos and mess in my life, which then coalesce into a very organized whole, just like that, randomly, out of the blue. My Libra ascendant never allows me to live in excess. It always pulls me back to the middle ground again. And I feel that this is the same energy that they have. And keep in mind, I only have my ascendant and south node there, while they have a flurry of planets, as you can see, in the energy of Libra. This is the quintessential aspect why I believe their relationship will last. Even if they cheat on each other, even if his career blows up and her career takes off, even if he decides to stay at home with the kids and she decides to work, whatever happens in their life, they will always want to come back to each other because they love partnership. When you bring such a powerful energy, such as a Pluto conjunction to Uranus, into your partner's stellium of planets, which are affecting his Venus specifically, there can be a really frustrating push and pull dynamic that they have. Venus-Uranus, without any other aspects to contain it, would be the energy of lovers who meet, they have intense coupling, and then they separate, and then meet and have intense coupling, and then they separate. Venus-Uranus energies are off the scale imbalanced, while Venus-Pluto energies tend to be like slowly building into this really powerful emotional overpouring if energy is not released gradually along the way. Now they have both of these energies together, so you can imagine this relationship is like slowly building while also breaking down and coming back together, slowly building, breaking down and coming back together. And I attribute this to their celebrity star-studded schedule, the fact that Ryan, for example, has to be away from home for long periods of time because he's filming, and Eva is left alone to take care of the children. I'm sure that there are some issues and some resentments building there in spite of the fact that they both love what they do. But again, they come together and they continue to build at their connection. The Pluto aspect comes in where Uranus kind of depleted them of life force. Now, from the point of view of Eva, I talked a little bit when I looked at her birth chart that she has this really strong masculine karma in her birth chart because I see the position of South Node conjunct her Mars and Saturn in Gemini. And now in contact with Ryan, she has her North Node in Sagittarius conjunct Neptune activated by his Mars and Neptune. So in a way, she idealizes the kind of man that he is. Normally, when you look at the birth chart of a man, traditional astrologers would tell you that you really need to look at the placement of his Mars. His Sun is important in terms of assessing, for example, the themes of his life, or understanding his vitality, his level of energy, or what career he may be drawn towards. But if you want to see how a man is in terms of how he gets a woman, how he courts somebody, how he takes action towards achieving certain goals, especially romantic goals, you need to have a look at his Mars. So if you have a crush, I strongly recommend that you pull up his chart and you have a look at what Mars is doing in his chart. This really carries a strong bearing on a man's personality and the way he decides to take action in relation to you. Now, Ryan has a Mars in Sagittarius, so this is a really optimistic, good placement for Mars to be in. Mars loves to be in fire signs because it's naturally domiciled in the fire sign Aries. So we see there very good flowing energy. He's got some really good connection to his body, to the way in which he takes action. Actually, every time he takes action, he tends to be surrounded with good luck. So he tends to receive good opportunities in life, especially for filming, ascendant in Pisces. But he's a very lucky individual. He's very generous. He's a good friend to have around. I'm sure that they are first and foremost good friends, and after that, lovers and parents. The only thing is that she tends to idealize him. So she tends to gloss over certain red flags or certain trigger points. And this could give him sufficient space to do the nasty behind her back. Now, I'm not proud when I'm saying this, and I really hope that he doesn't cheat on her, but there there are a number of red flags in Ryan's chart that tell me that he could occasionally attach himself to another co-star behind Eva's back. It's that Moon in Capricorn. Moon in Capricorn energy can make a person separate between their feelings and their nether regions. And also that Mars conjunct Neptune, which is leading a person towards random hookups that they don't even know how they got into. They wanted to help a coworker and they ended up in the bed with the coworker. Oops! Especially if you include alcohol or other hallucinogenics, you know, it can lead to really nasty imbroglios. Seeing as Eva has Saturn in the 4th house and that very strong Pluto in Libra activating his stellium, this is not going to go down well. If she ever finds out, it's going to be a massive, massive undertaking on her part to completely transform their private life. By all intents and purposes, as you can see, this is not at all a perfect chart. We see there as well that his Moon in Capricorn touches upon her Lilith in Capricorn, which kind of makes him low-key obsessed with her, but can also be repelled by the independentness that she has. I think the fact that she has her own life and her own money and that she was quite well off before she met him initially may have tickled him, thinking, oh great, prosperity, I have a woman that, you know, comes with her own money, I don't need to worry about it, which is a very Moon in Capricorn feeling. But then in time I feel that he's trying to replace that, like he's trying to be the one and only provider for the family. So I think there's a lot of anxiety there in his heart because of that Moon aspect touching upon her Lilith. Yeah, when I look at the Synastry chart, I think I covered all the points that I wanted to talk to you guys about. This video is relatively long, so I don't want to keep blabbering on. Please let me know your own opinions down in the comments. I encourage you to create your own analysis. Let me know if I missed something. It's really good to have your input, guys. I really value it. And keep in mind, I'm a certified astrologer. So if you want me to do the same type of analysis for you and a crush or a lover or even a celebrity, I would gladly help you with the Synastry report. All we need to have is the birth times. We need ascendant. So as long as we have the ascendant between you and a person that you want me to look into, I can create the Synastry report for you with accuracy. I can also help you with a birth chart report. I also have a unique on the market love asteroids report. I also have an astrocartography report. This one is about world travel. So if you're interested in that, get in touch with me. You have all the details down below in the description box. I highly recommend that you keep watching all the other Synastry analysis in this series. The Astrology of Love series has been my work of love, to be honest. I know it sounds repetitive, but indeed I've been enjoying creating these videos so much. And stick around because I have a couple more coming your way. Thank you kindly for being here on the Spiritual Cosmos. I hope that you take good care of yourself, and remember, until next time, let the stars lead the way.